Good evening. Glad to be here. I wanted to start by just thanking our wonderful art instructor, Anna Lampanero. Each year it's great when the principals present. They're surrounded by their students' work, so hopefully you have a chance to take a peek around and see some of the great work from our students, and I'd like to thank Anna for that. I'd also like to thank the board for a wonderful visit on Thursday. It was great having you. As I shared with the staff, board members, you are volunteering and you visit all 9 buildings early in the morning, and it's just wonderful for our staff to have a chance to speak with you and for you to have a chance to speak with them. So thanks for your dedication coming out and visiting us. So tonight I'd like to focus on 3 areas. I want to talk about our work with professional learning communities, our new 6-day schedule, and then some work that we've done with social emotional learning. Our Superintendent's Conference Day in October afforded us the opportunity to get on the same page with our professional learning community work. 2 years ago, we had some staff members who participated in a PLC hybrid event, and that was wonderful work. A lot of our mission, vision, and values work came as a result of that. Last year, we had several members from Jeff Road and across the district attend the RTI conference in Syracuse, which was great. But that left a large number of our staff without that training. So having that time together from our SRPs, educational assistants, teachers, all of us were able to meet and have a clear common understanding of the importance and the foundational pieces of our PLC work. And a lot of that involved, what does it mean to be a team and a high-performing team? And it talks about working interdependently. That means I can only achieve when our team achieves. Having a common goal, and members were mutually accountable. We are accountable to one another. And the 4 PLC questions that drive our work are listed here. The first question centers on essential standards. So what do we want our students to know? If we try to teach all of our standards, we'd need a 400-day school year, I think. That's impossible. So we have to call that down and we have to get to the essentials. What are the areas that are so critical in ELA and math that if students don't have those, that they won't survive the next year? So we have to really get clear about what's essential for our kids. And then question 2 centers on our assessments. Once we know it's essential, how do we know that students have met that? Once we have the assessments outlined, questions 3 and 4 talk about RTI, response to intervention, or responsive tiered instruction. And then we can talk about what we can do to help students who are not proficient, or what we can do to help students who already know it. So it was decided at Jeff Road that our focus for PLCs would be on mathematics. That was a logical choice because math, it's just easier to come to consensus regarding math standards across grade levels and within grade levels. And really we wanted to focus as much on the process as much as the product. So the process of the PLC work, having the time together, those collaborative discussions. So having that process in place, if we can do that successfully, that will transfer over into other curricular areas. So some resources that we use, obviously the New York State standards, our curriculum located in New York Learns, and then this is an example of the coherence map from Achieve the Core, which is a very, very useful resource. With a coherence map, we can look at any one standard and we can look across the grade level and see how dependent that standard is in supporting other standards. And then that's available kindergarten through 8th grade, so we can look at those relationships among multiple grade levels. So we can see major clusters, and this has been a valuable tool in our work this year. So our PLCs in practice at Jeff Road, one big issue is time. When do we have the time to do this important work? And we at ILT decided that our staff meetings were largely, almost entirely devoted to PLC work. So staff meetings are not me standing up giving a bunch of information to teachers. A lot of that is now distributed through emails. This time now, so tomorrow we have a staff meeting and our teachers will be working in collaborative teams answering those 4 PLC questions. Communicating vertically, so once they're able to have those questions answered, they're checking with the grade level below and above to make sure that there's alignment. And grade levels are in different places, and that's to be expected, and that happens for a variety of reasons. One good example is I have 2 grade levels where I have teachers that are out on medical leave, so those teams aren't as cohesive yet. They're still doing the work, but it's different than when you have all of your team members together. and ILT is our vetting process group that helps keep things connected across grade levels. Next, I'd like to talk about our 6-day schedule. That's new, that's been a big change this year, and we've seen some strengths in that area with implementing the 6-day schedule. We have much more consistency with 40 minutes for almost every special. That's been significant when you're creating a master schedule. Having 40-minute allotments just makes it easier to plug those in. No one special area, art, music, PE, library, no one area is negatively affected by a certain day of the week. I gave the example last year. I think if you had art class in November, you only had 2 art classes for the whole month. So that's a negative impact. The daily common planning time, we have that every single day for 1st through 5th grade. Kindergarten has it on several days over the 6-day cycle. And then we have set RTI blocks every single day for each grade level, as well as kindergarten. Within any new schedule, and there are some challenges, things that we're working through, certain grade levels, they have more time to meet, and that's simply a result of certain things like intermediate grades. They have a science class, so every other day in a 6-day cycle, they have an extra special. So with that, they have time to do their planning, and then they also have time to meet, and it's not as impactful for them. Our RTI blocks are wonderful, and it's great to have those, but until we answer those last 2 PLC questions, those will not be fully developed, so that will still be forthcoming. And one of the areas I think that the RTI blocks really does a great job with is students who have, say, reading support. They don't have to be worried about being pulled out of core instruction in order to receive that support. However, there are some students, it's a small number, but there are some students who have multiple interventions, so they could have speech, OT, PT, reading. So it's impossible to make sure that everything is accomplished during that 40-minute time slot. Lastly, I'd like to focus in on our social emotional learning work. And our committee had some adjustments this year. Just as a group, we had some parents who moved out of the district. We had some parents that graduated up to middle school. So we've had a little bit of shifting in that body. So it's been taking time to reset and revisiting our work and our focus from last year, which involved increasing student voice and choice, reducing social exclusion, and then looking for opportunities for school-wide celebrations. The first thing I had to do was look at just updating some of our things like our board on the website, making sure that that was updated. It used to say, instilling in all a love of self, neighbor, and learning. That was a model that was around for over 25 years. So we, looking at our mission, vision, and values, taking a sample of our mission statement and consolidating that, we've culled that down to being our best, doing our best, and making a difference in the lives of others. So being our best talks about who we are as people, how we treat each other. Doing our best speaks to keeping up with our academics and staying with our work, and then making a difference in the lives of others, the things that we can do to positively impact the world around us. So updating our website, sharing this information with our staff, our PTSA, and then we're also updating, we have a main mural in our lobby. So with the help of our art teacher and our students, that will be updated as well. We just ordered the supplies for that. In the early part of spring, when I presented to the board last year, I talked about the fact that we were having our first ever International Day. In May, we had our International Day, and it was such a significant success. I thought it was definitely worthy of highlighting at this meeting. So this involved a year-long partnership with our PTSA. We had over 25 countries represented, and most of these countries were represented by parents or family members. And it was wonderful to see families share their culture and family history with our students. They brought in so many of their personal family artifacts, some that were very delicate, very expensive, very fragile. And when you have hundreds of kids rotating through and looking at these, it was wonderful for kids to have more of an authentic flavor as to what was happening. There were special presentations for Taekwondo, Irish dance, and African drum and dance as well. So International Day was a highlight, but the highlight of International Day, I would say, was our Stop Hunger Now program, and this involved a major commitment from our school and from PTSA. We had to do some fundraising, and that was done through local organizations, philanthropy, and students themselves brought in money. And it was so cute. We had kids that were bringing in 29 cents because they knew that was the amount that would feed another child. So they took a lot of personal ownership in that. And here's some pictures. Everyone looks good in a red hairnet, right? But Stop Hunger Now, it's a nonprofit organization that distributes meals through feeding programs operated by partner organizations internationally. And the goal is in developing countries to promote education, encourage children attending schools, improve students' health and nutrition, address gender inequalities, stimulate economic growth, and fight child labor. At Jeff Road, every single student, kindergarten through 5th grade, had an opportunity to participate. And the kids did a lot of the measuring and the weighing out of the food items. And in one day, we packaged 31,000 meals. That's a requirement. We have to do that. So some of us had to stay a little late, but it was a lot of fun, a lot of hard work, and the kids just had a blast doing it. There was a big gong that I had to ring, scared the heck out of people, but it was a lot of fun. The kids really, I think, will remember this, the kids that participated for years to come. It was worthwhile. Again, when we think about giving back to others, we were able to track the food supply that went out, and it went to needy children in West Africa. And students got updates about that throughout the end of the school year. This year, a big event for us is always In-Gathering, and that's 4 days leading up to the Thanksgiving break, and students bring in food items, and they set a goal through our student council. This year, we ran into a little bit of a problem because we had the snow day, which was great, but it was one less day to bring in food items. Well, that didn't stop our kids. They simply, they absolutely blew out of the water the daily rate of products that they brought in. So we arranged over 750 items per day. Our goal was 2,000, and we absolutely crushed that. 2,260 items were brought in for the Pittsford food cupboard. And that was a record for us. And again, the snow day didn't stop us. So proud of our kids. And you can see, I know the picture's a little small, but this was just the last day, the number of food items that were just all over the floor, and we had arranged to bring those to the Pittsburgh food cupboard. We had a big celebration. We had a wacky day that the kids had a chance to celebrate. But that sense of giving back to their own community, I think, is extremely important. We also developed a relationship with the Highlands, Pittsford. Last year, a picture here is our 2nd graders, and they do a 2nd grade play every year. And last year, their play was Go Be Awesome. And they went down and visited the Highlands, and they gave their presentation or their skit for the residents. And it was so successful that Meg Rubiano from the Highlands contacted me over the summer, and she talked about other ways that we can collaborate and work together. So we looked at some things that we're going to be doing this year. We have a pen pal program with 3rd graders, some authentic writing. We have reading buddies, so 2nd graders are actually going to go to the Highlands with a book, and they're going to read with the residents. And then we invited the residents to join us at our chorus rehearsals so that the kids have an authentic audience to perform in front of before their big performances. So that's just a start, and I think that partnership will continue to grow. It's a great way for us to connect with their residents and for the residents to connect with our students. First time at Jeff Road, I've established a monthly student council executive meeting. It's a picture of our president, vice president, treasurer, and secretary. And I wanted to instill a greater sense of just accountability that student council represents all students. So we meet on a monthly basis. We had our first meeting last month. We have our next meeting on Monday. And we're talking about ways that we can make Jeff Road an even better place for our kids. And we're trying to increase student voice, and I thought this would be a wonderful way to facilitate that and just to bring a greater sense of meaning to student council. Something that came from last year's Social Emotional Learning Committee was a question if it would be beneficial to have a morning announcement, which I've done in the past at other schools. The trick with morning announcements is being the one principal in the building, if something's going on and I can't quite get to the announcements at the exact time, which can often happen, it can run you a minute or two late. If you add those up over the courses of days, you're missing possibly hours of instruction. So we came up with a different idea, and on Mondays and Fridays, I do a little video message to our students. It's a short video. I share good news, areas of focus, maybe an inspirational message, and some helpful tips. But it allows for students and teachers to have some flexibility in when they're going to view that. Some of our specials start immediately at the beginning of the day. So after they come back from special, they can run the message and listen to it. And the kids they're hysterical. They think I'm live. So when I say, bye guys, they say goodbye to me, talking to the screen. But it's been pretty impactful. Cute story from our OT at school. She was working with a student and he was just doing a really great job, and she was commending him on the work that he was doing. And he said, yeah, I'm doing that morning message Mr. Clark thing, you know, really trying my best and putting in my best effort. So it's great to hear from staff that the kids are listening and they're taking that on. In development, we've also established a mentoring program for our 5th grade students with Sutherland High School. I know Allen Creek has an after-school tutoring program. This is a little different. This is actually having students come in during our recess and lunchtime and actually spending time in more of a social setting with our kids. So this will begin in January. We've had a meeting already to establish how this is going to work, and we're meeting on Wednesday with our 5th grade team to just iron out some of those details. But we're looking forward to that. I think it's important for kids to have some older kids to look up to and to just have some time to spend with them in that mentoring role. I think the high school students will be able to benefit, and certainly our students will be able to benefit from that as well. We got some pictures from our Wacky Day. Any questions?
Anyone have any questions?
Yeah, just in keeping with the PLC question 2, how will you know when they learn it? I was just wondering how, in the daily plan, the common planning time, how is that manifesting itself in the building with teams working together among the staff?
So the question is the planning time during the day?
Right. The common planning time is part of the 6-period schedule.
At different grade levels, I think it's a little easier. So primary, it's more challenging. They have the set time together, but if that's their only special of the day, by the time they maybe call back a parent, or by the time they've done some of the planning for the next day, they don't have quite as much time. Versus the intermediate, they might have 2 specials in one day. They'll have their common block, which they'll actually spend time together working through the PLC questions, looking at assessments. A great example, 3rd grade has been able to do that pretty effectively. So they've answered basically the first 2 PLC questions, and what they'll do is they'll have their mini assessments. They'll have that for each child, and they'll sit together and they'll say, okay, how did your students do compared to my students? And then they'll look at trends, and those are great conversations. If I'm with a group of teachers and I notice that a certain teacher has really done a much better job in teaching a certain concept, then I can either tap into that, or during the RTI block, we could actually regroup and share kids, and maybe that teacher can work with them on that concept. So it's developing, but it's definitely easier for our intermediate versus our primary.
Sounds good.
Anyone else? Thank you, Sean. It's always a pleasure to be at your school, and it's a great group of people, and we really enjoy it.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Hope everyone has a great holiday.